Hi, and welcome to my nightmare. So I'm going to keep this very short. I'm not going to take too much time because this is already an hour and a half. But this was supposed to be part one of a video, so about half an hour, and it is almost 2 hours long. So this is going to be the plot of Fate the Winx Saga, decodicated by me and then opinionated by me and Angel, my best friend again. So it's like a podcast, really. I did not put any drawings in the background for reasons that are literally because if I put drawings, I don't think it would work because it is so long that it would be too slow. But I already can tell you that I designed every single winx in their Enchantix form. And that's gonna be in the next video. So this is like a short guide. If you didn't see the episode, if you didn't want to see the episode, honestly, I recommend you not seeing the episodes at all. But or if whenever the next video comes out, if you want to have reminder of what went on, a very long reminder, this is gonna be it. So sit back, relax, put this shit in 2 times speed, and let's go. So, hi, welcome back. This is the part 2 of our, whatever this is, podcast / drawing session / talking about the wings for an hour straight and see where it goes. So, let's talk about Fate.
Oh god, oh god, oh god. Not Fate.
So the way I want to start talking about the Fate is talking Fate the Winx Saga, by the way. We're going to start with plot lines. So the part 1 is going to be plot. We're going to go episode by episode, telling the objective way the episode went, and then talking about opinions. And we're going to do that for all the episodes. Angel, again, you are free to interrupt me at any time if something I say doesn't sound right. Just cut me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Ready?
Let's go.
The first thing we see in Fate the Winx Saga is a cold open, which is a man who is attacked by a weird creature after chasing a sheep. What is really funny is that we never see this man again, I think. So
yeah, is it brought up? I think he's the one that they find later.
Oh, I thought that was a student.
It's never explained. They never tell us exactly who that person is. They don't do anything with it.
So that is the cold open, and then we move through to Althea, which is the school, and we go through the kids. We meet our Bloom, which is alone. We see Stella, which is a bunch of friends. We see Tara being alone with a pot. We see Musa with her music. We don't see Aisha, I don't think, or if we do, it's a blink and miss it moment. And then we see Bloom, which is alone, and a loner kid, and until she is approached by Sky, which is a blonde boy that is not a freshman like her and is more known, and they do have a weird conversation at that point, and they are kind of like flirty, but not like it's a mean kind of flirt, which is weird. Then Stella picks up Bloom and introduces herself as the senior of the group, as the senior of the Winx suit, because apparently Winx is not a play on word of wings in this one. It is literally just the name of their room. So she shine her bag because she's so rich, and then she shows her ring, and she's like, I am the princess of Solaria, and this is my ring that shows that I'm the princess. This ring comes back later in the episode. That's why they show it there, but when you don't know, it seems very, very weird to show it that way. They're introduced to the world of magic, like the magic world of this, by Farah Dowling, which is definitely a Farragonda stand-in. I'm gonna call her Farah for the whole of this plot thing. Bear with me. Farah is basically Farragonda, but we joked about this. Farah is Farragonda, but on ketamine instead of being on crack.
Oh, definitely.
She explains that they are on Solaria, which is not a planet as in the cartoon, but a realm.
They explained that they're on the other world, and it has 6 or 7 realms. I think it has 7 realms. Yeah, that's it.
And they are on the Solaria realm, which, like, the other world, because Earth, Terraria, whatever, is not in the other world. It's a very weird concept. The way they explain it doesn't really make sense because they never go to Earth. Well, they do, but only for Bloom. Like, there is nothing going about Earth, so I don't know why it is different being on Earth and being in the other world. It is a little weird. And then they all go together in the Winx Lounge. And wonders to we are shown before that Terra rubs them all off, which we're going to talk a lot about Terra because since Tekna is not in this, Angel and I love Terra. She was the only like main character that really matters in my opinion. I love her a lot. I love Aisha too, but I mean Terra was definitely my favorite character. And spoiler alert, they made her very, very bad. They find a body in the woods, which I thought was a student, but apparently it's probably the man with the goat. It would actually make more sense. Beatrix shows up, and she tries to enter... Beatrix. Beatrix is the villain girl. We know that she's evil because she wears dark eyeshadow, like a dark smoky eye. And, you know...
And she's interested in history.
Yeah, so she's evil, definitely. And she tries to enter Pharaoh's room, which is blocked off because that's weird. Don't enter, like, the headmistress's room. We have a flashback that whenever Bloom felt strong emotions, she would have a burst of powers, which is why she's on Althea now, because very traumatic experience with her mom. When she was in her... like on Earth with her mom, one night she was really pissed at her mom and she clocked the door. Like she went really hard with the door, so to remove her door, as every great parent does. That's a joke, by the way. This is very bad parenting. Please don't do that. And Bloom is mad, and in her sleep she unleashes hellfire upon her mother while sleeping, which she gets burned. And that's why she's on Althea. And then Aisha tries to tell her that this is not that bad because Aisha, when she was young, unclogged the toilet of her school, so everybody had to walk in fecal matter. So they were trauma bonding over that, which is again a little weird. We have a quick flash of Farah opening a secret door behind a library, like a bookshelf, and in her office. Then we are introduced to Dane. So we're going to talk a little bit about Dane, because Dane is a character that is certainly a character. And at the beginning we see him as like this poor freshman that is attacked by Riven. But they only call him Riv because I guess Riven is not a good name. And he like attacks him and is like being like the high school bully. And Terra comes in, and as a girl boss that she is, she saves Dane. After that, so that's to show that basically Terra is very strong and she knows her power and she's a girl boss. This is what this is supposed to set up, even though they try to make you believe that she's not a girl boss later on. Aisha tells Bloom that she is probably a changeling, so a fairy, but that was sent on Earth to be that is again a concept that seems to be so like created specifically for Bloom, but the way they explain it is that it is a fairy that was sent on Earth to be to grow up as a human, and they say that these changelings are usually the most powerful fairies.
Yeah, the way I understood it was that a changeling was a fairy that replaced a human child. So a human child would be born, and then they would replace it with a fairy child that would grow up as a human.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you explained that much better than I did. But they were also adamant on the fact that changelings are always more powerful than quote-unquote normal fairies. So then Stella, because she's pissed that Bloom and Sky have been interacting, Stella gives her ring to Bloom, being like, oh, you can go home, see your parents, like I know that it is frustrating or whatever. So she goes back home to California, and she sees her parents. She calls them from outside their house, and then she goes back home to Althea. But before she can do that, she's attacked by a burned one, which is the monster from the beginning. We learned that they're called the burned ones. They're very powerful. We don't know where they come from. They're basically unkillable, like very hard to kill. And this burned one is chasing her. So Bloom runs and she loses the ring into like the burned one catches the ring. So Ferris, the winx, and Farah find Bloom and save her. Which is that like Farah is very angry. They save the winx. That's it. We see that Stella and Sky sleep together. So we're introduced to the fact that they are actually like a couple before the beginning of the show. And then Tara tries to become friends with everybody, particularly Musa, because they share a room. And Musa is, in that first episode, being so mean to Tara for no reason. And the way that the cinematography is made, it makes us think that Musa is right, which is so bad.
Yeah, it was bizarre framing.
Yeah, because, like, Musa is being very, very mean and, like, basically shutting Tara up with music, being like, I don't want to talk to you. But the framing is like that actually she is right and Tara should not talk to Musa. So then we see that Riven is smoking weed in the hallways at night, and Bia enters and smoke with him. Then we see that Dane in his own room is looking at Riven's Instagram photo, because yes, in this Winx universe they have actual Earth Instagram, which is a thing. And he accidentally likes one of his old photo, to which we cut to Riven being like, haha, he must be gay for me. And then the ending of the episode was in a shed in the middle of the woods where we see a cloaked figure approach, electrocute the burned ones, and then the cloak is revealed to be Beatrix's disguise. This is the end of the episode. Any comments, Angel?
Oh, I have so many comments. I think the world building that is just set up in the first episode is so weird. It is so bizarre. Choices were made and they were all bad choices. So they explain that there are different realms and they're in the other world. But it is virtually indistinguishable from Earth. They don't change the scenery, they don't change just the way buildings are made. They don't change anything about how everything looks. So it just makes you think throughout the whole show that they're still on Earth and that they're just a hidden magical world on Earth. It's also the constant references to human Earth media like Harry Potter and Instagram.
Yeah, that scene with Harry Potter. Okay, in the beginning of the show, when they first meet in the room, there was like a very long conversation. I would say at least a minute long, that scene. Like, it was long, like, even for a show. And Aisha and Bloom are talking about Hogwarts houses.
Yeah, and it's brought up completely randomly. And, like, when I think about the show, I see why it would make sense for them to bring it up. And I think it's because the writers really love Harry Potter. Because
yeah,
the more you watch the show, the more
references.
the more you watch the show, the more you can see like similarities between Harry Potter plot points and Fate plot points. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's not a good thing. But like I see why they brought that up, but it still doesn't make sense in universe why someone from a different realm than Bloom would understand like Earth media.
Like,
So,
I will be the last person to defend Harry Potter because, like, we talked about it again in the last episode. Harry Potter has no place in my heart. But at least Harry Potter had some plot points that were consistent and built up over the years. Like, it was 7 years of 7 consistent, like, plot points evolving. Fate, the Winx Saga, tries to have similar plot points. No development whatsoever. It's just thrown in her face. This is normal. Let's go with it.
yeah. Um. Also, like the way Tara is framed in that first episode is that she'll be very submissive or very, very much a pushover when she's with the people she likes, so like her friends and Dane. But
She will let herself get like stepped on when she's with her friends.
Yeah,
like,
but when she's with like bullies, like Riv, she'll take the reins and she'll fight him, or she'll at least be a girl boss.
Yeah, which she is. Like, these scenes are very good, actually. Like it is good to see a plus size, like definitely neurodiverse coded character being so asserted and grounded, and like a lot of her character is very, very good. I like the way she is portrayed very well. I think Elliot, the actress Elliot Salt, if I'm correct, made an excellent job to portray her.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah,
But,
no, I
like,
think
the way she acts around people that she don't like and people that she does like is so different.
yeah,
And it's not
I
a good
wish
thing.
she had been like more assertive, even with her friends, because it could show that like it's fine to be assertive even with people you care about. That it's okay to take care of your boundaries and
stand your ground.
Yeah,
honestly.
stand your ground.
She gets stepped on so hard, like all the time. Like in that first episode, we don't see it that much because they're not friends yet. They never. We're gonna talk about it later, but like they're not friends at that point. But they still are so mean to her. Like in that first episode, it was really hard to see for me, because she was really much trying to have a relationship with Musa, and it was very like she was trying to talk, and Musa was really dismissive and like, no, I don't want to talk, whatever. And then Tara was like, well, here's a plant, because that's how I like, if you don't want to talk to me, it's fine, but like at least take a plant to like think of me, or like to brighten up your mood, because I feel better around plants. And so like she gives a plant to be responded by Musa by saying, if I take it, will you shut up?
Yeah, it like I feel like we should talk about this more in the character portion, because I still have many thoughts on Musa and Tara, and we have so much to talk about. So
we do. Did you have any more opinions about episode 1?
Not that come to mind.
Okay, let's go on to episode 2. Before I start about the actual plot points, there is a very important place that is developed in episode 2 and introduced, which is the Stone Circle. This is the place where the winx are able to try their magic. It is seen as a very cool thing. Yeah, that's about it. So the cold open of the show is the girls that are fighting over the last night's events. So they're like just talking, being aggressive about the last night, because like all of them think that Stella did a bad thing by letting Bloom have her ring, but they're also all mad at Bloom for losing said ring. Then again, we see another shot of Beatrix trying to get into the headmistress's office, only to be dismissed again because she's a student. She has nothing to do there. So they all go to the stone circle, and for a homework, they have to show their power. So the way the stone circle works is that you go at the center, and it's apparently the most magical place of all. So you can like go with your powers and like show them. So like we see that Tara vines grow, Aisha water flows and she can control it. Musa has a weird like circle of air basically, even though it's mind, because how do you represent mind? And then Beatrix has electricity, and then we see Bloom that has nothing. So she's not able to do it, so she goes away. She's like, I'm not able to, and then we see that Farah is not happy. Then Riven talks about Dane, says that he is probably gay, but he also shows off in front of him, so he's like homophobic, but he wants to show that he is like, he wants to be looked at, basically. The winx, they eat together, which is a weird thing. Like, these people don't like each other, but they still eat together. And then after they talk about nothing, they talk about getting the ring back. Bloom and Sky talk, so we know that Sky is with Stella, but he still talks with Bloom, which is fine. Relationships between girls and boys are, in my opinion, very much acceptable, although Stella is being jealous and told Sky to not talk to her, but he still does. Then we see a cut to Beatrix and Riven working together to get into the basement, because Beatrix doesn't tell him that they want to go into the basement, but Beatrix wants to recruit him. She already has an accomplice, but she thinks that he's really dumb and useless, so she wants a new one, basically. Musa follows a guy that she knows nothing about, so we see her eyes glow purple, which means that she like feels a thing, but then so she feels things, but then she follows him and doesn't know what is going on. So after this, Stella is showing Bloom that rage fuels power, because like Bloom is alone in the stone circle trying to use her power, and she's not able to, obviously, because she doesn't know how to use her power. So Stella shows up and is like, if you're really mad, you're gonna get more power. So she like is being very aggressive and talks about trauma, and it's like, ooh, like you will never be good enough or whatever, to make her mad, so her power worked. And then is the really first time that we talk about Silva. Silva is like the like the main teacher for the specialists. He is a father figure to Sky. We're going to talk about him a lot, but him and Farah are not sure about what to do about the burned ones, and we have a long shot of them talking and not being sure what to do. Tara and Dane, they're seen as very close, so they are together, they're studying in the greenhouse, because this is Tara's place, and they're talking, and they're eating together, and they're studying, and it's very great, until Dane receives a text, and he seems really out of it, and he doesn't talk to her because he responds to the text, and then he dismisses her and goes away. Then we see that Riv and Beatrix are smoking again. They are scheming, they're talking about evil shit, and then Sky arrives because he lives with Riven, and he's like, hey, maybe don't be evil, and they just smoke their vape and continue to be evil.
Their vape. Oh god, the vape.
Well, Aisha tries multiple times in this episode to help Bloom. I forgot to talk about that in the first episode, but there's one scene in the first episode where Bloom goes alone in the forest and unleashes fire all around. And luckily for Bloom, Aisha shows up and extinguishes the fire. At that point, we see that Aisha will progressively, every single episode, try to be the mother figure or the babysitter to Bloom, which is very destructive for both of them, because like Bloom doesn't deserve a babysitter, and Aisha should not babysit Bloom. Because
it's a weird character choice. We'll get more into it in character dynamic stuff.
Yeah, it is a weird dynamic. So we learned that Musa is getting close to Sam, so she learns his name. She talks to him. We also learned that Sam is Tara's brother. So Musa is in love with Tara's brother, which is gonna get explored. They go after the burned one who has the ring, so they go to the barn and they see that the burned one is not there, and they see multiple dead soldiers that came to defeat him, and they find Silva actually that is like literally dying from a burned one. While they find that Bloom goes on her own because she hears voices, and she is face to face with burned one. She freezes, not able to use her power, and she's saved by Aisha, who shows up out of nowhere and save her. That burned one had the ring stuck in it, so they take the wing and continue. We see that Beatrix during that time enters the headmistress's office. She opens the door. She finds the door where what she's looking after, but it is trapped, so she doesn't do anything about it. The winx are arguing again in the lounge. They are talking, and then they're about to go to sleep. Aisha tries to talk about Bloom about what is going badly, and Bloom doesn't listen because she gets white eyes, and the episode cuts there. I know that I talked about this episode kind of in disorderly manner. I will all of them, because that's how it is presented to us. The plot points are intertwined in such a weird way that it never makes sense, and I took these notes on my third time watching, and that is the best I can do because these plot points are not. If I put them chronologically, they would not make that much more sense anyway.
Yeah, it's very hard to organize plot points into very neat explanations. It's one after the other, and it's hard to separate everything that goes on.
And nothing is linked, but everything is.
Yeah.
So do you have any opinions?
I do, as always. So with the stone circle, I don't think they explain, like, I talk a lot about world building, but I just love world building, so that's it. But I don't think they ever explain what is the importance of the stone circle. Like, yes, it is the place where magic is very powerful, but they don't ever explain why it is a powerful place, I don't think. And
they kind of do in the last episode, but not really. They're just like, this is the epicenter of the magic of Althea. Like, it does not make sense. It is just there.
It's loose storytelling, like loose world building, and I just don't vibe a lot with that. And the powers are reduced to being only earth, water, air, mind, light, and fire, which is a weird departure from the cartoons. Because in the cartoons, fairies have, yes, they technically have archetypes to their powers, like sound, light, etc., etc. But they still have very particular powers. So, sound you have linked to music, and fire you have linked to the dragon flame, and stuff like that. So it's very precise, even when it's archetypal magic, compared to the show Fate, who really just reduced it to earth, water, air, mind, light, and fire. So that was kind of a weird choice.
And it was a bad choice, I think, personally. Because later on, like at the end of the season, we learned that actually Bloom is the fairy of the dragon flame. But during the show, we see many fairies of fire, and they're generally more powerful than Bloom, which is fine. I don't mind your main character not being the most powerful one, but you try to set up Bloom as this one fairy to save them all, when she's just one there.
Yeah.
Like, that was a weird choice.
Yeah, we see many fairies with the same powers, which is... It was a weird choice. It was a weird choice.
And it's also not explained, this comes on later too, but like Faragonda, we never really know what she's a fairy of. I believe that she might be
there are many characters with powers that you have to ask yourself many times, what are their powers? Because the show never tells you explicitly, and it never really truly shows you what the extent of their powers are, or what their powers are linked to. They just show they have powers.
Yeah, which is a weird choice. Like, some fairies, like older fairies, have more than one power. It's never explained.
And I guess another big point was that when Musa is following the guy, which is Sam, Tara's brother, it is framed really weirdly. It unfortunately did remind me of Twilight. To have a character that can read minds, and then she finds this one character, Sam, who seems to have nothing in his mind, or, just like in Twilight, a shield. And it was kind of weird to see that set up, because our only interest in Sam in the beginning is that he just has no thoughts going around in his head, or none that she can perceive. And it's such a weird reason to fall in love with someone for.
Yeah, also they're trying to set like their relationship up as like fate the Wing Saga or whatever, but like they're trying to set it up as if they're meant for each other because she's a fairy of the mind and he doesn't have a lot going on there. But it's just a weird choice because like I really don't understand why they want to set this up. Also, the fact that she keeps Terra out of that relationship feels very weird. Like
from
it
the
is
beginning,
a repeating
from
plot
the beginning,
points.
from the beginning, she's keeps saying, "I can't let Terra know that I am interested in her brother or that I'm dating her brother," and it's such a weird choice to make, to have friends or friends to be not tell each other things as important as, "Hey, by the way, I'm dating your brother." And it's such a trivial reason too. Like, she doesn't give a reason why she wouldn't tell Terra. It's just, no. I'm not gonna tell her. Yeah.
Yeah. I have like 3 little opinions about this episode. I'm gonna get more later on. These first episodes are just kind of boring a little. First of all, Stella is very mean. For no reason in these episodes. Like, she's seen as a brat, and she gets development a little bit down the line, but way too late, without any context. She just seems mean for the sake of it. And also, they want it to be a CW show so fucking bad. Like, they have a love triangle. Why? There's no way. There's no reason in the Wing stuff to have a love triangle. Sky is with Bloom, Stella is with Brendan, which doesn't exist in that universe, I guess. But, like, it was not necessary. It was really not.
It was definitely a weird show because, Sky keeps telling Bloom that he doesn't want to get involved with Stella anymore. And on the other side, Bloom keeps saying that she doesn't want to get involved with Sky because there's a weird thing going on with Stella. And Stella is pretty much the only one that really wants a relationship with Sky. At the beginning, mostly. So it was a weird start to the love triangle that they're trying to set up. It just didn't make much sense to me why they would set it up that way if they wanted it to be compelling and interesting.
Yeah, I did not vibe with that. So let's go on with episode 3. Episode starts with what Bloom was seeing with those white eyes, which is the vision of an evil white woman. And she decides that she absolutely needs to find her. We see them in class, like talking in class and studying. And Farragonda, the headmistress, is actually the main teacher, and she pushes students really, really hard. And when they don't succeed because too much pressure, she gets really mad. Also, there's this weird scene with Terra that we're gonna talk in opinions, I'm sure. We see that Silva, the specialist guy, is about to die, which Terra and her father both work with plants, and they should both know the cure, except that Terra is not trusted to be able to help. Like, Beatrix is talking to her accomplice in the hallway, like scheming, like evil schemes in the hallway, not caring apparently that people can just hear her. It's pretty weird. Tara and Dane talk. Dane is again out of it. He doesn't really care. Musa and Bloom talk at the table. They talk about like boyfriends and whatever, partially Musa about Sam, and then Tara arrives, so they stop talking. Love that writing. And then Bloom asks Tara advice on where to find information about old people at the school. Sky and Silva talk about the future because Silva is believed to be dying. So he's like, "Oh, the future is gonna be dark," and then he talks about like what it is to be like a good father figure. Um, Aisha practices her water magic because at the beginning when they were doing like the personal class, it was kind of hinted at she's very powerful, but she doesn't know how to scale down her power, so she can go very very powerfully, but when it's small amount she's not able to do it, so she practices. Except that Bloom shoves her water bowl down to put her book in to show her problem and be like, "Can you help me?" Um, so they talk about finding who the white woman is. They go to a party, so Tara gets ready. She's helped by the other girls because apparently she's not able to put makeup on. The adult drinks alone in like the like hallways. They're like drinking scotch and like talking about the problems, while the kids are at a party. Tara brings drugs at the party, particularly weed brownies that she made herself. Weed, get it? Because she's a plant fairy. But she does not take any because she's not about that, but she brings it for Dane specifically. Sky and Bloom interact, which is, again, none of them, like, Sky seems a little interested by Bloom, but not more than that, but they keep talking. Aisha uses her power to win beer pong, but she's not able to succeed again. Even though she was really good before talking to Bloom, now that she's with Bloom, she's not able to do her powers anymore. Riv talks a little bit about Stella and what happened the year prior, where Stella blinded her best friend. It is a weird plotline, I will tell you. So the way it worked is that her best friend wanted to be with Sky, and she blinded the best friend with her light power. That's all we know at that point. So Musa and Sam talk at the party in a lone, like, small place, but Tara arrives, so Sam disappears because Sam can walk through walls because he's a hearth fairy. He's the only guy fairy that we know of, by the way, which is cool to have guy fairies, but we'll talk about it later. We see that Riven, Beatrix, and Dane are alone in like a closed off room, and they're sexily sharing a weed, like a roll up, and like they're like smoking in each other's mouth, and it's seen as very sexual, and also Riven is being very homophobic.
Being gay and homophobic.
Sky and Sella are having a full blown argument in the party because of the before said best friend from last year. Bloom tries to bring Aisha's inner antics, like being like, "See, this is the person that I need to find," and Aisha's just like, "Girl, don't bring me up in this." Beatrix kills her associate because she discovers that the trap can only be the trap in Fergonda's room, not Fergonda, Fair Dowling, Farah's room. It can only be activated once before it goes, like, it doesn't work anymore. So she pushes her accomplice in, and then she walks in, so she kills her associate just like that.
Oh, it's important to note that her associate is a teacher, and she makes multiple references to, hey, wouldn't it be weird if you got caught flirting with a student? And then she kills him. That's something.
Yeah, well. Then Bloom confronts Farah, which happens like 8 times in the show. Like, we're on episode 3 and it's the first time that it happens. But in my notes, it is written like 5 times. Bloom confronts Farah. Just so we're clear. Bloom confronts Farah about what is going on, but Farah responds that you're too young to know. We don't want to put that burden on you. Move on. But I'm saying it nicely. She did not. She was just really angry about it. Bloom goes to the circle to practice her powers because now she's mad and she almost loses control. She's met with a word Sky that seems to actually be there for her and try to reassure her, but she doesn't care. Bloom hears voices, so she follows them. Dane and Tara get closer, like they're texting, they're having like, ooh. Uh, Beatrix find a like light up thing. Like we just see her enter a room and there's a long like wall of light. She's like, "Ooh, that is cool." Bloom and Sky, the voice that they heard was a burnt one. Um, so they try to fight him off, but obviously Bloom is not able to use his power. So they get attacked, and luckily for them, the other wings arrive at that moment, save them. Um, Except that they don't because they cannot kill burnt ones because they're so fucking hard to kill. So Farragonda, Darling again. Farrah shows up out of nowhere and saves them because you know, and then we learned that the only way to cure someone from burn one's illnesses is by killing the burn one who inflicted that illness. So since they killed that one, Silva is gonna be fine finally because he's no longer infected. Sky and Stella have an argument again about her ex-BFF, but also talking to Bloom, but also like Stella having mommy issues and like being scared. Then we see Tara in her bed, happy back home, happy to have had a good night with Dane, except that Dane posted on his Instagram story, public Instagram story, him being a jerk, being fatphobic, being misogynistic towards her, and like being very sexist, like being like, oh, I would never would never have sex with a fat girl. Basically, that's what he says, which is fucking gross. And Tara is obviously heartbroken. And then the last shot of the episode is a shot of what Beatrix found, which was an evil white woman, the same evil white woman that Bloom saw, cut in a light prison. That's it for episode 3.
Oh boy, episode 3. There's a lot going on in episode 3. There's a lot going on in every episode.
Yeah, episode 3 is like the worst, but yeah, it is.
So at the beginning, when Farrah is teaching them how to control their powers, there are multiple moments that made me go, are you sure you want to go with that? So there is a moment with Tara where Farrah tells Tara that there is such a thing as giving too much when she tries to control the plant and accidentally kills it. And it was a very weird decision to say that to a character that is very neurodivergent coded and has a very big personality of always talking, always being there for her friends, and just being a nice, supportive person in general.
Yeah, I think we need to like develop a little bit what we mean by like coded as neurodivergent. The way Tara acts a lot of time is she talks a lot. She talks very quickly. She's out there, like she has very special interests, and she's very good at what she loves. Very intelligent, there for other people. But again, when she enters the room, she talks, and then we see her multiple times, like starting talking, and then be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I talked too much," and then go back because that's what neurodivergent people do. Like I know that feeling to be like, "Oh, I am being too loud. I'm sorry. I'm gonna scale back my thing."
I've also noticed that she talks a lot about personal like anecdotes, things that happen to her, or just things that interest her in general. So again, it's very neurodivergent coded. Like, I see that behavior in myself. I see that behavior in my other neurodivergent friends, and yeah, it was
totally.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing that is really hard about this is that Tara, again, but in that episode particularly, everything that she does is seen as being bad.
It's seen as too much.
It's always too much, which is not how you want to introduce your neurodivergent.
Yeah, also, again, in the same vein of ideas is when Misa and Bloom talk and Tara arrives and they just kind of shut up.
They not only they shut up, they roll their eyes.
Yeah.
Like, both of them, like, roll their eyes. They're, like, pissed off that she arrives. Which, I was really angry at that scene.
Tara starts talking about a subject. I don't remember, but it was, I think it was about the party or about Beatrix and her being pissed off about it for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. And Bloom cuts her off and asks her directly about a thing that will help Bloom only, about like where to find information. And again, it was a weird decision to take, to like cut off a character that is cut off a person that is talking about anything, and to have her quote unquote friend cut her off and be like, actually no, you're only of use to me when you can help me.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it is also in my notes that Bloom only cares about Terra when she's useful to her.
Yeah.
Also,
weird
again
choices.
on Terra, that scene to have when she needs help with makeup, we see Terra sitting in the bathroom being like, I don't know how to do this. It is bad. Like, Elias Salt is very pretty, but I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but in my opinion, to see a plus-size character not able to be quote-unquote pretty by herself is not a good move.
It is not a good move at all. It felt weird when I first watched it, and it still feels weird. So it's not a good choice. They have made some choices, all of them bad. And I guess my last comment on this episode would be a more positive one, I guess. And it's when Bloom and Sky meet a burn one. I thought the concept for the burn one was kind of interesting. I really did like how mysterious they were and how powerful they were. That like it's very hard to kill one of them, and how they have like voices that are faint, often multiple like overlapping voices. So it could have been, well, not it could have been, but I think it would be cool to explore more of that in the second season. but I really did like the burn ones, and I think it could be interesting to see if they're related to not
Bloom.
Yeah, to Bloom. And I would have said Domino, but I know that Domino is not a real thing in Fate.
And they're probably gonna call it Sparks. But here's my theory, my Fate the Winx Saga theory, even though I don't want to think about that show ever again. But my theory is that the burn ones are literally like the inhabitants of Bloom's true home that have been transformed by monsters. I don't want to elaborate on that, but I call it. That's how it's gonna go. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see that. But yeah, I really did like the concept for the burn ones. I'm kind of disappointed that the design for the monsters don't look cooler. They're just big and
they're kind of like
charred.
zombie-like. Yeah.
Yeah, they could have made them like. I feel like it would have been really interesting to see some contrasting colors, to have like ambers floating near them. I don't know. It could have been interesting to have better character design for them.
These characters are all 16 through 18, if I'm not mistaken. We know that Bloom is 16 and she's a freshman, so we can understand that Bloom, Terra, and Musa are all 16. Sky and Stella are probably 17 or 18. So they're in that age range, and maybe that Aisha is like 17, I think, but she might be also a freshman. But they're all smoke, drink, and they're being very like intense. And I understand. I know I've known people like I'm 20. I know people that are young. I know people that went to party, but normalizing like 16-year-old eating weed brownies is kind of weird. Because it's just seen as like a normal thing.
I also guess the trend started with shows like Riverdale that portrayed their teenage characters as very intense, and and crime and drugs and sex and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
it always felt weird to me because yes, there are definitely some teenagers that do that, but it's not the majority of them. And it's very weird to frame all your teenage characters as intense and sex loving, and it's weird. It's weird.
It's a little intense. Then I have Sky is nice to Bloom, like very very nice. Like he could be such a cool character, except that Bloom doesn't even try. She's like just being mean to him. And if this is supposed to be flirting, you need to explain to me how this is flirty, because it's just mean. I have written down after the second watch that this show doesn't deserve a Kesha song. That I just have to say, like a lot of this show would be better if Farragonda respected these kids, which she doesn't. She sees them as kids that don't have any value, not value, but like no actual way to help her. So if only she respected them, this show would be a lot better, I guess. Because that's how the actual Winx Club went, like, and it was fun to have like, ooh, like they're trusted. Also, they were trying to make a party makeup special. I don't know what they were going for. It was kind of cool, but it didn't fit in at all. Like, this show is all green and dark and not colorful, and then they tried to do like Euphoria style makeup, which was pretty weird. I have to give again for the burned ones. I don't like their design personally. I like what they stand for. I don't like their design.
Yeah.
But there were some very cool shots. Like on one shot, we see Bloom like in the forest, like looking around, and just like red circles in the background because they're eyes. It was a really cool shot.
Oh yeah.
I think that Stella's development came way too late. Because it comes in the next episode. Like the official comes in the next episode, and it is way too late. It's more than halfway through the season. That's not normal. And also the way that Aisha trusts adults is way too much. That's it. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. God.
So let's move on to episode 4. So the cold open of episode 4 is the adults. So we're talking about Silva, Farah, and Tara's dad. They found that the trap has been opened, so they use some kind of sorcery, like witchcraft, to find who died. And it's Tara's father who find like a mixture of like powder and reveals the corpse. Then they're like, oh, that's a teacher. Haha, fun. Then we see that Beatrix is stalking Bloom, which is why. We see her on her phone. She's looking through her Instagram, and even Ribbon is like, oh, you're kind of obsessed with this new girl, huh? And then she's like, yeah, well, a changeling is so powerful. I want to know what's going on. Then, on the other saga of Aisha losing herself to Bloom, Aisha took the place of the headmistress's assistant, which was the teacher, was also the Farah's assistant. She takes the place of the assistant to help Bloom because she wants to know more for Bloom. Then they show multiple scenes of the Winx like being friendly, but there is no escalation of friendship. Like, they've been arguing all the time, and now they're just like friendship and laughing and being together, like friendly and stuff. Then we see that Dane and Rev are talking with Beatrix. These three are together forever now. They're never without one another. And they're always doing evil shit. Dane is turning like a bad boy, like he's smoking and he's being like, ooh. Then the Queen of Solaria arrives. That is Stella's mom. And she's very friendly to everybody. And she's like, hi, hello, I am the queen. I am the most important person here. And then she goes in. And it cuts to Tara being with Sam and her father in the green house. And then it knocks on the door. So Tara raises up because she knows it's Dane. And then both her father and her brother is like, oh, we're gonna deal with this. And Tara's like, no, guys, I can deal with this. And she goes in and she's very nicely being like, ooh, she's very nicely being like, ooh, you've hurt my feelings. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Goodbye. Aisha finds a recording device in the headmistress's like hallway. Like it's not her room
like
per se.
secretary
It's
office.
like, yeah, where she does her job. Like she finds a little spy earpiece kind of from the headmistress's office. She doesn't tell anybody this. She just finds it. Then we cut to Bloom researching the old parts of the school. So while the queen talked, like everybody's in the auditorium listening to the queen talk about like Solaria and how good they are and how they're trying to fight the burned one threat. And during that time, Bloom is in a little part of the school doing a thing away from everybody. And Beatrix shows up. And Beatrix says, oh, I know what you're going through. I went through the same thing, and I know where you're from, and I know what is going on. Do you want the truth? At that point, nobody told Bloom anything about the truth, and she's not asking questions either, really. She's just confronting about being lied to, never really asking for a real thing, but she knows that nobody would give it to her, so she trusts Beatrix. Cut to Fergonda's office, the queen and Stella talking. And the queen is really, really pissed because Stella shows us of power. And so we see that she has a light ball in her hand, and then she separates her hands, and there's a rainbow. That is the power that she wanted to show her mom. And the mom is like, are you serious? And then she has a whole tantrum about how she sends Stella to Althea to learn her powers, not to become a little nobody that's not able to do great things. And then she shows Stella what she can do, because the queen is a fairy of light too. So we see her changing Stella's entire perspective, which is a very cool shot. Because when you control light, you control what people see. So she changes the whole, like, Stella is now in a dark forest where the mom appears, so we see what Stella could become, that's what she's scared of becoming. So we see that Beatrix and Bloom are spiraling together. They're talking and like they're being accomplices, and they're like, oh, we need to go to Asterdale, because Asterdale is apparently where shit happened. This is apparently where Bloom come from. This is what Beatrix told her. She's like, I come from the same planet as you. I know what is going on. Stella is going on her mother's planet. Stella is gone.
It's not a planet, but yes.
Yeah, but isn't she going to like the planet in question? I thought, maybe I'm wrong. I thought she was going to another planet.
I don't think. Same with Astrodale. I think they just, like, we've seen to go to Astrodale, they just go on a car ride, so it's not very far from the school, and it's probably the same to like where Stella and her mom live in Solaria, because they also go by car.
Probably. True, you're right. So they're going on their mother's, like, she's going to the castle, she's gone from Althea. And then Bloom and Beatrix are in Asterdale. Beatrix removes a force field where we see ruins on the side of a mountain with, like, destroyed buildings and stuff. And Beatrix explains that the teachers, including Farah, destroyed Asterdale like 16 years ago, so when Bloom would have been a baby. And this is probably where they found her and sent her to humans. So, like, conflicts with the parents. They go back to school, and immediately, as soon as she sets a foot in the on the proximity of the school, she's being told that she is arrested, and she has these weird handcuffs that are in her forearms, which prevents her from using magic. But right before that, Bloom was like, how and why should I trust you? Like, what is trustworthy about what you have to say, really? And Beatrix is just like, oh, don't trust anyone. Don't trust me. You don't trust yourself. Trust your instinct. Nobody else matters. Which is very manipulative, but like Beatrix is supposed to be the antagonist or whatever. So then Tara is very mad because Tara is walking the corridor, talking like out loud about what she feels, and she's like, oh my god, people, I can't deal with lies. Like, I hate liars, I hate lies. And then we see Musa feeling bad about it and be like, well, I have to tell you a lie they've been telling. So me and Sam are a thing. And guess what? Tara is super happy and she hugs Musa and is like, well, I'm so happy for you. Sam is my brother, thus I think he's a jerk, but if you're in love, I'm happy for you. Which is a normal reaction to have, and I don't know what Musa was expecting. And the episode ends with Bloom in Farrah Dowling's office. Farrah interrogating Bloom about where they're gone. Bloom flying like, oh, she just wanted me to. We went on a girl trip, like it was nothing. It was just to escape because we're feeling overwhelmed. And then Bloom goes back to the suite, and Farrah calls Bloom's parents, human parents, abusive parents. That's where the episode ends. Opinions?
Yeah, I think we see a bit more, world building stuff in this episode, but it's still very bad. Because they show no sense of scale. Like, they don't, we don't see how big, the school really is. We don't see, where is Solaria? We don't see what is Solaria. We don't know if it's a realm or just a kingdom. Same with Astrodel.
Well, just by the fact that I thought it was a planet, like I assumed it was a planet.
Yeah.
But like, there is no way. Like, they are on Solaria, and I thought that like Solaria might have been like a galaxy or like not maybe like a solar system or something. But like it would also make sense that it's just like the planet in itself is Solaria.
Because
but it's very.
They all go by car everywhere, but we still don't know how much time it took them to get there. Maybe it could have taken them 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, maybe it took them 5 hours, who knows.
Well, they could also have used the ring, though. Like, ring or, like, more powerful magic to create portals, even though they aren't cars. Like, it could have been enough.
Could have, but once again, it's not explained, so we're just left kind of confused by the sense of scale of everything, and I guess it's the same thing with the magic system, is that they tried to have very strict rules without explaining it, which like in magic and in like world building, either you have very like developed strict rules, or you make it very loose and you don't explain, or you don't try to explain anything. The problem with shows like Fate that try to do both at the same time is that it just doesn't work. You can't try to explain some things and then just leave the rest out. You have to try to explain everything, or at least have strict rules for everything. And again, I hate to bring it up, but Harry Potter has a good magic system. It has a good magic system.
I hate to admit it, but yes, it does.
Because it's very strict. The rules are defined clearly. It's spells. You need to either say them out loud, or if you're very powerful, you can think them, and it's fine.
And you need a like wand, and you need like specifics.
Yeah, you need specifics. You need, unless you're like really powerful, you need to do specific things, movements, whatever. The problem with Fate, once again, is that there are some rules to the powers. You know that, for example, Fairy of Fire can only have fire powers. But you don't know for sure what the rules are, and they never really try to develop the rules further.
Well,
so
that is a very simple explanation. They want the magic to feel consistent and good, so they want the magic system to be like have rules, but they want to be able to break these rules, so they make loose rules and not explain stuff, because they're like, well, if we don't explain, there's a chance that down the line we can like go further. Like, I'm not a fan of Supernatural, but I believe that this is what they did with Supernatural too. By setting up half the world, there's always space, and like you can still like increase the rules later on. But if we follow what Supernatural did, that was not good.
Yeah,
Like,
they tried something. It did not work. And tangentially related to Celaria and the Queen, the fashion of the show is, it was a choice.
That's bad.
Again. Especially the Queen
these...
and Stella, they remind me of like British royalty right now, which is not good fashion. It is not good fashion for a fantasy show. You just make them look old.
That look with Stella, she looked middle-aged.
Yeah,
like,
she looked old. Not even like Riverdale teenager old, but like actually middle-aged.
It looked just like 30 years old.
Because, she looked like a young mom.
Because like and it's not the fault of the actress at all. Like the actress is very pretty and whatever, but I think the problem is very like the clothing. It's like, I'm gonna post a picture here, but it's like a pink like vest thing with brooches and then like low updo. It's not cute.
Yeah, no. The fashion, they tried to do something. They tried color coding.
We're gonna talk about the fashion later on anyway, but like, yeah, the fashion.
But yeah, I noticed it, especially in this episode.
You brought it up. Yeah, this one episode was really hard on the fashion. One thing I found really weird is that this show removed witchcraft. Like, Cloud Tower doesn't exist, so there's no witches. So at the beginning of the episode, Tara's father uses witchcraft to find a body, which I thought was such a bad thing. Don't know for you, but like, if you have fairies and like they are supposed to be fairy and have fairy magic, why are you using like artifacts and doing like spells to like find something? It just feels like, oh, that's not what you do. You're not a witch, which is fine if they want to have witches, but they decided to not have witches. So why don't they use fairy magic? I thought
that was like, it could have been interesting to use science to find what happened, but it is too like magical to be science. So it's very much more in line with sorcery and witchcraft, which they decided to remove entirely.
Which was a bad take, if you want my opinion. We're talking about the fashion I have in my notes. Bloom's main outfit all the time is a white t-shirt and a leather jacket. She has like 5 different leather jackets, and I understand you want your character to be like, ooh, powerful, edgy, ooh. There are other clothing choices than red leather jackets. I digress. I thought that, partially in that episode, Tara was so infantilized, and didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, especially like as we talked, she's very neurodivergent coded, and she's constantly talked down to by adults, especially her father.
This relationship, like the father tries to be like sweet, but he just comes off as mean.
I guess it makes sense because they're supposed to be 16, but since the actors look much older, it doesn't come across as just trying to protect a teenager. It's really just being infantilizing to a young adult.
Yeah, because like I love Elliot Salt, and again, like she portrays my favorite character, which is Tara, but Elliot Salt is 27.
Yeah, absolutely no disrespect to the actors and actresses in the show, because they did a fine job with what they had, but I think they should have casted either younger people or made the show take place in like a college or a university.
They could have just gone with the original like winx and being a college, because it is not surprising to see like an older person in college. Like to see a 25-year-old something at a college, like it would make so much more sense if these characters were aged up, because like I think the youngest actress is like 22, So like, or 21. I might be wrong. I did not check this up right now, but like it would make so much more sense if it was in college because first of all, these actresses are older. Second of all, the themes would be much better. I mean, sex, drugs, it
Murder,
just works.
kill, violence. Yeah, it would have made sense.
Yeah, it would, and also like the headmistress is definitely like a dean type character, so you could have made it like a dean instead of a headmistress, and it still would have worked. Like it was just I think it's not a bad choice.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, on bad headmistress, when she called Bloom's parents for being subordinate, when Farah knows that Bloom's parents are abusive, didn't sit well with me.
And also the whole framing of Bloom's parents as not very abusive is it was weird. I keep saying weird, but it was bizarre.
The thing is, like, in storytelling, you usually go with the show not tell, right? In that show, they show that the parents are abusive and bad to Bloom, and that Bloom doesn't like being with them because they are mean to her. But they tell us that she likes her parents and that they are good parent figures. There's a dissonance here.
Conflicting storytelling. And
which is not what you want.
Yeah, no, you don't want that in a show. And yeah, it's I did not like that whole plot point of her going back to her parents. It was
especially if you like change it for like the original Winx Club, with her parents were so sweet. And also it doesn't make sense that she calls her parents because they don't show up. There's nothing that happens. She just calls them and then it's like drop. They like, whenever she calls her parents again, they talk about it and they're like, oh, wasn't there something weird going on? But not more than that. Weird try. Let's move on to episode 5, shall we?
Yeah.
Good. Episode 5, a lot less happens, apparently. So we see at the beginning that Farah tortures Beatrix. So we see that Beatrix is like screaming, she's clenching her head, she's not feeling well. We see that Farah's eyes glow white, which makes us think that she's a mind fairy. And then when like Silva is like, hey Farah, you're hurting her, she's like, no, it's all in her head. And then Beatrix sits on the floor on the bed.
If I remember, it's that Beatrix is pretending that it hurts because that's what she believes it does, but it's still not explained a lot either.
Yeah, so that might have been it, but I thought it was like all in her head, and then she's like, oh, it doesn't hurt, I'm just like in her head. And then Beatrix is just like, well, it's what I say versus what you say. And then Farah is like, well, you can try, which is so weird. These interactions are so weird. But yeah, you might be right. It's like she's pretending, but also like...
Yeah, and then she's seen as manipulative because she tells Farah, oh, it would be bad press for the school to have to torture a student. Something like that. It was never brought up again.
So then it cuts to Sky and Bloom in like a maze, and Burn One fly at them, and Bloom is still trying to use her powers and is not able to, and Sky tries to stab the monster, but it dematerializes in front of them. Then we realize that it's just like a way to practice. It's like a fake Burn One, which is it's a way to teach your students how to kill Burn Ones, I guess. And then we have pans of like kids fighting. Every time we see the specialist, by the way, they're always fighting all the time. There is never a frame of the specialists together that they are not hand-to-hand combat. It's always that, but now everybody's in hand-to-hand combat. Then Tara is sitting and Riven goes to talk to Tara. Just for a reminder, Riv has been very fatphobic and sexist and mean to Tara for no reason. And then he's like trying to be nice, and he's like talking to her and be like, oh, I created a monster, talking about Dane. then we see that Bloom and Sky have been interacting a little bit more, and Silva asks Sky to spy on Bloom. And when Sky is like, well, I don't feel comfortable into spying to this friend slash love interest that I have, Silva is like, well, it's more important to like do it for your country or whatever. We have a flashback.
It really felt like that.
That's what it was, really. Because, and then there's a flashback that Silva tells about like being led by Rosalind, and then we saw them in like the darkness of the forest fighting burned ones, and then Rosalind like telling them what to do, and we see that like Silva wants to follow orders but hates to follow orders. Bloom and Dane work together to free Beatrix. So Dane works looking for looking at the prison. So he's like, oh, whenever it's my turn, I'm gonna drug the other guard and I'm gonna let you in. So he does that. So Beatrix gives her a magic sphere, like a CD shape, like a circle, and she's like, ooh, you need to charge it with magic, and when it's overcharged, bring it to me. There's a weird scene of Musa and Sam kissing very intensively on a bed. Musa removes her like top, and they're kissing for like a good minute, and then a flower falls on the ground, and then Stella is like, well, I have class. So she wears like her shirt again, and she tells Sam to leave, and then she like looks at the room discreetly, and then she's like, oh, you can come out. And then we realize that Stella was never gone, and now that Stella can turn invisible. So I guess being under a abusive parent gives you better powers. Then we see Bloom in the circle trying to create a power, and a Sky arrives, and he's like, oh, what you're doing? And she's trying to remove the circle from the like stone circle, like she's trying to remove the utensil. She's like, no, don't do it, it's nothing. He's suspicious. It cuts to the Queen and Farah talking. They're mad at each other because Stella isn't with her mom anymore. So the mom is like, well, you know the troops that we have to take care of the burned ones? Yeah, no, they don't exist anymore. They're all there for my daughter, which makes sense. But again, it is like a weird way to deal when you're like the queen of this entire universe or whatever. Stella talks to Musa about her mommy issues and how her mother is a monster, which is like, I'm not joking about that really. Like Stella, like her mother is very abusive, and is not a good mother figure at all. Then Dane is seen smoking in the cafeteria, and then Tara confronts him again because she wants to know what bullshit Bloom is on. So she grabs his feet with vines. She glues him to she's being a girl boss basically, and she's like, tell me where he is. Cuts out to Bloom talking to Sky. They're having fun. He needs water, so she gives him her water bottle, and he's like, ooh, it's cold, do you need my jacket? And he removes his jacket, and she's like, well, I'm the fairy of fire. And he's like, oh, okay. Then they kiss over a very cringy song. Like it's not very good. It's like a very like it doesn't fit well. And then they kiss, and then she's like, I have something to do, and he's like, what? And then he falls on the ground, and we realize that she jogged a water bottle because apparently she knew he was coming. We see that the troop that were chasing the burned ones are all dying, or all getting chased and not having a good time. Bloom gets almost to Beatrix to deliver her, but she gets stopped by Aisha and Tara, which take the circle away from her, being like, don't do this. Bloom goes to see Farah darling, to confront her about Asterdale. And Farah is like, yes, it is my fault. I should not have done that. I was listening to orders and I shouldn't have. And then she explains that like Rosalind, Silva, the specialist, and then other fairies were conjured a big storm to destroy to destroy Asterdale. So like Bloom is pissed a little. So she goes out storming, and the winx help Bloom after all except Aisha, they're like, well, actually, you can have this circle because everybody's keeping the truth away from you, so you can better learn it for yourself. So she finally finds Beatrix. She delivers her. She goes to the secret room, and she's like, well, no, we only need a dummy to go through the trap. And Stella's like, yeah, it's you. And she reveals herself and pushes her through, which maybe kills the... No, it doesn't kill Beatrix, but it could have, technically. And then we see them walk through the tunnels. Stella is trying to be nice to Tara, but it comes out very mean. And then Bloom alone goes to see Rosalind. And that's how the episode ends. Opinions. So, I think Farragonda says the most important thing is trust. These characters, none of them are trustworthy. The whole episode, the old show, they're all keeping lies again, like lies from one another, which would make sense. It is a good story point to have people lying to one another. I like it. It is good. Not in that instance. They're not very good. They don't have a good motive to lie to one another. It's not very good.
Oh yeah. What I wanted to bring up was that what I noticed, especially in this episode with Beatrix, is that they say fuck a lot. And like,
it is in my notes too.
Yeah, they say swear words at totally random times when they like shouldn't be saying them. Because like there's definitely a nuance to saying swear words. Like, I know I say a lot of swear words.
Oh, me too. I probably said like 5 since the beginning of this thing.
But like, there are like contexts in which you say a swear word. And I think the problem with most of the teenager shows is that they say fuck for the sake of saying fuck. That they they don't like, they're just like, ooh, it's edgy, it's such a bad word.
Well, Beatrix says motherfucker literally just, ooh, look guys, I'm evil.
These hurt like a motherfucker. Like, okay.
Yeah. I love that British accent. Oh, by the way, I am not told y'all yet because I wanted to keep that for the settings, but I think it is a good place to say that. All these characters are British. All the magic characters except Bloom are British. Okay. British people exist. It is cute. It is fine. I love British accent. When your magic characters are all British, it's so American. Like,
oh, it's a weird special place. They must be British.
Also, something that rubbed me the wrong way is that Beatrix which generally Beatrix is not that wrong. Like, she's morally gray and she does bad things, but generally, like, she wants the truth. We don't know what she actually does, but she's like, oh, Rosalind has been imprisoned for wrong reasons, so let me get her out. But like, at one point she monologues to Bloom and she's like, oh, there's no plans for new ones anymore. And it's like, not good. Like, it's not well, like, not to get political, yes, sometimes like nuance gets lost, but this was not a point to say that. It felt like a jab at leftists for some reason, which was not fun. You know.
Yeah.
Also, they're like, every one of these characters have problem with their mothers, which can be fine, except that Winx was based on good parenthood. I'm really glad that Tara confronted Dane. I'm really mad that she was so kind to him for no reason. Also, again, Sky is very nice for no reason. Like, he has massive himbo energy, which is good. I like himbos. It just doesn't feel like a good character trait because he's just like, oh, let me like this girl that doesn't give a shit about me. Also, yeah, at the end, Stella is like talking to Tara and be like, oh, maybe I misjudged you or whatever. They talk. And then the last thing that she says is, that outfit. And then it cuts to another plan.
Yeah.
That, to me, felt like an insult.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a nice comment. It was definitely like double-edged or something. Like it was a comment that was left ambiguous, and it could have been taken as positive, but the way it was framed was definitely more negative.
Yeah. Well, Stella has been seen as like this bitchy character, which like they're trying to make her like a better character in this. So like character development. But then that happened, and it's like we didn't see enough development to see that she's actually nice now, to think that this is a nice comment that she made.
Yeah. Especially when they don't develop the friendship a lot, so we've only seen them being rude to each other.
Yeah, at this point we only saw them being rude, except that the framing of the show shows them as being best friends. So that's that on that. Do you have anything else? Any other opinions about that one episode?
No, I think that's it. This episode was boring to me. It didn't have a lot going on, even if it did.
Yeah, well, the last episode is not better. So let's go to episode the last, number 6. Rosalind tells Bloom that the only way to liberate her is by unleashing her full potential. So she lets go of chains or whatever, and she liberates Rosalind. And then they go out a door into a forest. Keep that door in mind for later. The girls are grounded because they're too young to do evil things. I wrote that really weird, but like they go into the room and it's Tara's dad that is like, you guys are grounded because you did a bad thing. And then Tara's like, you've been keeping things away from us. Like, what are you expecting us to do? And he's just like, well, you should know better. And then he locks them up, which is sure is a way to deal with that. Sam comes running through the door because he can walk through walls again, and he wants to see Tara so bad. Not Tara, Musa, sorry. He wants to see Musa so bad. Cuts to Rosalind at the like stone circle, and Rosalind tells Bloom that she is very strong, and that she is like supposed to be the most powerful fairy, and like she's so good. And Bloom starts doubting because she's like, I don't know you, I just know that I wanted to liberate you. And then Rosalind, and then she brought up Asterdell and was like, what was with that? And then Rosalind was like, actually Asterdell was run up with evil blood witches who were going to eat babies or something. So we had to destroy them, but I had to keep it away from them because if I didn't tell them that we were killing people, they would not have let me kill these monstrous witches. So then Bloom is like, okay. So Bloom kind of like has a tantrum and is like, oh, I should not deal with this. So she runs out to the school, and Rosalind's like, go to the school is being run over, have fun. We see that the school is hunted by burned ones because the bear gets down for some reason. So the other students escape and regroup, which the winx cannot because the winx are stuck in the room. They are just stuck there. Sam gets out of the room through the walls to go see what's going on. What was that sound? Because there was a loud sound, and he gets attacked by a burned one. So he comes back ready to die. Bloom, while running through the school, finds Sky, which is not mad. He's not mad at Bloom. He's just like, well, guess you drugged me. He was like, well, it's kind of weird that you drugged me and then you kissed me and then drugged me. And she's like, well, actually, I drugged you first. Again, very weird dialogue. Why are these characters in love? I could not tell you. Sky and Bloom open the door to the other wing so they can get out. And then they prepare for a Hogwarts battle. All the school is reunited in the great room, and then Farrah is like, I do not know what is going to happen, but we're gonna do the best and be ready, fairies. You can do this.
It was again, I hate to bring it up, but I'm pretty sure the writers or directors were influenced by Harry Potter in some way for this show, because the parallels, they're everywhere. And that, like, quote unquote battle sequence really felt like they were going for a Hogwarts final movie.
Well, that's what it looked
Sequence.
like until you saw what was actually going on, and it was not. Because like Bloom and Fair talk and about Rosalind, and then Bloom is like, "Oh, they were actually evil witches. You didn't kill anyone important." And Fair is like, "Oh, thank God I didn't kill someone important. I only killed people." So, and then she asks where Rosalind is, and Bloom is like, "Oh, she is at the Stone Circle." And then Fair is like, "The Stone Circle is where magic supply comes from. By being there, she probably destroyed the barrier and removed the electricity from the school." So Bloom is like, "Ah, good." Um, Riv and Dane are talking. Riven and Dane are talking while Bia is in a coma, like she's sleeping, and they're just like keeping turn. And then there's this very bad interaction where like Riven is definitely like flirting with Dane, but he's like, "Oh, so you're gay, right?" And Dane is like, "Well, and then Riven is like, "I know when someone is hard for me."
Yeah, I know when someone is like thirsty for my dick or something.
Oh, yeah, I think that's the actual line, which is even worse than I remembered it to be. And it's like, uh-huh. Sure that you're not projecting here, buddy. So then Sam is getting treated by his father, Tara's father, and Tara. So when I mean he's getting treated by his father and Tara. They have the same father because they're siblings. And Musa is there, and then Musa runs away because she's not able to bear with it. So that happened. Then we see that Bloom runs away from school because she knows that the burned ones are running after her for some reason, so she just runs away. And then Silva, which is like, "Oh, we're all gonna die," tells Sky this very tragic backstory that Silva had to kill his best friend, which was Sky's father, because Sky's father really liked war and really wanted to kill every person in Asterdale. And Silva was like, "Actually, don't want to kill them." So they had a battle, and Silva won. So he killed Sky's father. We see Tara running after Musa and be like, "Why aren't you helping? Like, he wants you. Like, if he dies, he likes you. Why?" And Musa is like, "Well, last year I lost my mom," which is a very sad plot point. Actually, it is the plot point from like the show too. And since now she's a mind fairy, she was like, "I saw my mom die in front of me, and I felt everything, and it was very tragic." And yeah, this could have been a very good plot point, and I think it was one of the better ones, even though it was like, I'm going to talk about it a little bit after, but the way that she doesn't communicate is a little infuriating. So she's like, "I cannot do this. I cannot see a loved one die again." But then she runs afterwards, and she tries to help him while they're like helping him. And even Tara is very like intelligent, and like at one point, the I think that's that scene, but Sam is like freaking out, and Tara's like, "Focus on me. I'm not feeling any emotion. Focus on me. You will be better to help." We see the burn ones enter school, so we all think that it is the end, but the burn ones are actually following Bloom for real. So for that all Hogwarts battle that we're talking about, yeah, none of that happened. The burn ones immediately escape school. They follow Bloom. They don't hurt students. Bloom comes out of the same door at the beginning of the episode, except that she's not at all at the same place. Then Bloom is like, "Well, what do I do?" And then Aisha and Stella are like, "Unleash your power, girl. You can do it." So Aisha makes a water circle around Bloom so she doesn't burn anything. And then Bloom has a very bad, sorry, but a very bad transformation sequence where she grows wings. And then she KOs every single one of the burn ones in one swoop. She's just like, "And you're dead, and 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 you're dead." And then she comes back down with wings, and she's like, "Oh, we have wings." Rosalind during that time meets Beatrix and the two boys, and they run away together. There is a very weird fading sequence from Sky that is definitely thinking about his dead dad, but it was a choice. Bloom and Farah make up. Bloom is like, I was a brat. I'm sorry, I threw a tantrum. And Farah is like, it's okay. You had the right to be a brat, not taking anything on yourself. So the Winx go to Bloom's house in California. Bloom is like, hey, parents, I am a fairy. And she shows them her power, and then they sleep over with the girls. And the parents have a very weird montage sequence where they're like showing their emotion. What emotion that was, actually, I have no idea.
It felt like a coming out sequence that they would show in like an indie movie.
Yeah, because like they were showing like kid picture and like, oh, look how cute she was. Anyway, it was a scene. Silva is arrested by the queen, and then he's like, for what? And they're like, for the attempted assassination of Sky's father. And then he's like, attempted? And then Sky's father comes out of the van and is like, haha, I'm there. Then Rosalind and Farah talk behind the school, and Farah is like, I'm not gonna let you ruin this school. And Rosalind is like, well, you're not able to run it, actually, so I will. And then Farah's like, I will not let you do that. And Rosalind killed Farah and goes away. And then the Winx come back to school to see Farah, no longer see Farah. They only see Rosalind, the queen, and Sky's father being like, ooh, there's new changes at school, haha. The end of the season 1.
Oh boy.
So,
that episode.
That ending.
That ending. Well, it was stupid. Pardon the strong emotions, but the just the way Farah dies with the soundtrack in the background and the visuals, it's all so dumb, and it's so hard to take it seriously.
If I can, I'm gonna put it right here.
If you
because
can.
The first time I watched that scene, and I'm not joking, I laughed. This scene is so funny. She was like, well, crack, there's a new boss in town. And then she runs away like, a girl boss?
Heather, my dear, there's a new sheriff.
Oh my god, Heather. But like, it feels like, well, I am, goodbye. And it's so funny, and like, I understand what they were going for, like, just unceremoniously, like, killing a character off. It could be cool, but it was just so funny. It was so funny. It came out of nowhere. It was so funny.
Well, from what I remember from the episode, they were talking about blood witches, right? That are seen as like inherently evil because they draw magic from sacrifices. And so they're clearly trying to bring back witches from Winx the cartoon. However, the problem with that is that witches in Winx are not seen as like inherently evil. They just draw magic from a different source than the fairies. And so when you compare that to Fate, that is showing the witches as inherently evil, it's a weird change. I'm like,
because
we haven't
I
seen.
think like in the cartoon, the main difference between fairies and witches are the way that they use their power. So a fairy, for example, like if a fairy had power over ice, they would have a more tendency to like use ice in a creative way to solve problems and to help people, to make shields. But when you're a witch, you would more use it to hurt like people, to like more aggressively, I guess. Not necessarily in a bad way, but like you would go more offensively than the fairies who are generally more defensive. So I see where you're going, and like we even see that like one fairy in the cartoon like transitions from being a witch to a fairy, and it's a very cool plotline. She's like, well, actually, I don't like the way witches are taught. Can I be a fairy? And they're like, yes, for sure. Yeah, the witch thing was really weird.
And I guess it's because we haven't seen or heard much of them. Yeah, like it's brought up in the last episode, and as much as I hate to see it, say it, maybe we'll see more of that in season 2.
Yeah, because like Farah is also like, then she's like, oh, it doesn't matter that I killed people, they were just witches.
So yeah, it's just kind of weird to see them as pitted as inherently evil.
There is this very funny sentence that I have. Den and Riven don't deserve to be there. They're very bad characters, but please don't bury your gays. You decided that this was going to be your queer characters. For some reason, it is very problematic. We're going to talk about it in the characters and the setting. God, don't kill them. Because if you do, it's going to feel like a double hate crime. So Silva is like, oh, I'm trying to be such a good person, but he's being such a bad person. Like, the whole show, he's being very, very bad. Also, Sky's father, like, being like, ooh, I'm just following orders. It's not my fault if I kill people. Don't like that. Like, yeah. I know that he's supposed to be a villain, but ooh, that was a choice. Not a good one.
Not a good one.
Oh, also, like, the way that all of these teachers, like, because all the teachers were there in Nasterdale, they're all trying to remove their responsibility by being like, oh, it's not us, it shows the land. It felt like something they should have touched more, but they didn't. Like, it should have been something seen as bad to be like, oh, it's not my fault, I was following orders. But they're like, no, actually, it's fine to kill people. So yeah. The door that I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm pretty sure I've checked, and they come out of the same door twice, and it's in a different place, which I understand, but is a little weird. The wings, I don't understand them. In this episode, they bring out the wings, which is just like a kind of dragonfly wing with fire. Why?
I do remember that in the first episode. They say that fairies used to have wings.
It's an ancient fairy magic, and they lost the power to have wings.
It's just bizarre that they don't talk about it more.
Yeah, because when she gets her wings, Rosalind is like, oh, actually Bloom has a dragon flame in her. Which is like, explains why she has like wings and how she could defeat all the burned ones. But also, like, Bloom literally one-shot every single monster without a single ounce of character development about her powers. The only time she used her powers before, she was like, I'm not able to use my powers. Because, like, she was scared to lose control, which is a fair enough. But without ever doing it, they were seen as the, worst thing to defeat. Like, only Farah, like, killed 2 of them. Like, nobody else we saw killed them because they're so hard to kill. And then she just, like, kills 6 at once. So,
yeah.
It was really weird. And they wanted to set up a season 2 so bad, and they did.
Yeah, they set up so many things in just the last episode. When they had the whole show to set them up. It's not a good decision when you're making a show that has not been confirmed yet. Well, it also has now, Netflix. but the show at the time did not get confirmed for more seasons. So it's weird that they set up so many things without even knowing if they were gonna have a go for season 2 or 3. And now we know that they did have a confirmation for season 2. But the show would not have made much sense, like, as it stands.
Yeah, and also, like, when you know that you're going to be on Netflix, which had, like, shows such as The Order, The Society, like, these shows that were canceled after season 1 or 2, and that were, like, believed to have more season, and then were canceled, like, last second. It's not a good move. And, like, in general, I like to think, I prefer my seasons, like, in a show, personally, to wrap themselves up. Because I think it's more interesting storytelling to go from, like, this is a self-contained story that can have a larger arc, but it's better if, like, the main plot points are resolved, I think, personally. so like when it like kind of ends up on, ooh, it's a finale, but it's also the beginning of something else, it feels weird.
Yeah.
So any more opinions on the plot of the show right now?
No, not right now.
It's very convoluted. It doesn't really make sense. It is the way they edit things are not very good either. Like a lot of times when I said like the plot points I brought up were in order of appearance on the show. So like sometimes they bring up a character, they cut another, and sometimes they're like quick repetition of like small shots of characters, which is not good storytelling, I think. Um so I guess that's gonna be it. This was supposed to be like part one of a video. I think it's gonna be a video on itself. We're almost at 2 hour long now. So thank you very much, Angel, for
Yeah,
coming
well,
here with
yeah.
me and to endure fate at least twice with me. And I guess we're gonna talk soon about the characters.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot.